Val Kilmer died last week, and when I heard the news, the first thing I wanted to do was watch Tombstone. Because he became a star at a relatively young age, and because he was such a good-looking guy, Kilmer played a lot of starring roles, especially in the 1990s. During that decade, he got top billing in films like The Doors, Batman Forever, The Saint. I wouldn't call any of those a classic, nor do they represent Kilmer's best work as an actor, because the thing is, Val Kilmer was a character actor who was occasionally miscast as a leading man due to his good looks and movie star charisma. For me, Kilmer's best leading performances both come in comedies, Real Genius and Top Secret, with Top Secret being a particular favorite of mine. As far as dramas go, all of Kilmer's truly great work comes when he's playing a supporting role. Top Gun, Heat, and what I and many others still consider the best performance of his career as Doc Holliday in Tombstone. Tombstone is a Western and ostensibly a drama, but it's so pulpy and over the top that it's often difficult to take seriously, which is not to say it's a bad movie. I find it to be one of the most entertaining Westerns ever made, and despite its heavy load of characters and incident-packed plot, it just flies by. There's a scene where one of the main villains, Curly Bill, kills Marshal Fred White, and Wyatt Earp steps in to take him into custody and holds off both Curly Bill's fellow gang members and a gathering lynch mob. That's a major turning point leading up to the fabled gunfight at the OK Corral, and by the time we get there, the movie's already been on for nearly an hour, but it feels as though it's just getting started. The film's cast is extraordinary, not so much for the performances given, though there are some excellent performances in addition to Kilmer's, but for how almost every important character is played by a recognizable actor. Some were stars at the time, some had been stars, some would go on to be stars in the years to come, but to paraphrase Marge Simpson, everybody here is somebody. The cast is so packed with familiar faces that when I watched it just recently, and Charlton Heston showed up late in the film as a rancher who has a handful of lines in 3 brief scenes, I actually laughed out loud. Holy shit, he's in this too, I completely forgot. As lead character Wyatt Earp, Kurt Russell is great, despite the fact that about 75% of his dialogue consists of tough guy cliches, which he somehow manages to deliver with enough conviction to make them work. It's not many actors who could say lines like, "Skin that smoke wagon and see what happens," and maintain their dignity, but Russell makes it look easy. And yes, that is Billy Bob Thornton as the scumbag card dealer Wyatt is smacking around there. I told you, everybody is in this damn movie. The other 2 Earp brothers, Virgil and Morgan, are played by Sam Elliott and Bill Paxton. Elliott gives his usual performance, which is to say, a very good one, where he makes everything he says and does seem like what he was going to do anyway, regardless of what the script said. Paxton seems to have remembered his lines, which is the best we can hope for out of him. But it's Kilmer who outshines them all. Kilmer's Doc Holliday is a character in every sense of the word, every bit as theatrical and full of romantic melodrama as the movie itself. Though he's full of snappy quips and many of his most memorable lines drip with irony, his best moments are of stillness, anticipation, watching and waiting to see how the other characters will react to his antics and provocations. He is a bit of a clown and a dandy, but he also comes across as genuinely dangerous. Doc is already dying of tuberculosis by the time we meet him. He knows he's on borrowed time, and he lives that way. His awareness of his rapidly approaching mortality gives him a brashness and a bravado.
I suppose I'm deranged, but I guess I'll just have to call. Cover your ears, darling. Isn't that a daisy?
Doc has a pronounced streak of fatalism and often behaves self-destructively, but he is also capable of extraordinary personal courage and viciousness. You do not want to fuck with Val Kilmer's Doc Holliday. He can go from joking to serious in a heartbeat, and Kilmer imparts to almost everything Doc says and does a biting wit and clarifying intelligence. When Johnny Ringo makes a threatening show of some fancy gun spinning, Holliday matches the routine not with a gun, but with his ever-handy tin cup. In so doing, he both diffuses a tense situation and subtly humiliates Ringo, demonstrating that if Ringo wants to intimidate Doc, he'll have to do more with that gun than twirl it around on his finger. By the way, real quick, speaking of that tin cup Doc is always carrying, and I do mean always carrying, Kilmer's performance is so full of little quirks and details that even though I've seen the movie I don't know how many times, I still occasionally notice something I never picked up on before. One of my favorites comes during that big scene I referred to earlier when Wyatt is trying to arrest Curly Bill while holding off both the cowboy gang and the townsfolk. Billy Clanton, one of the cowboys surrounding Wyatt, has just threatened to rush him when a drunk Doc walks up to the scene and holds his gun on Billy.
Drunk piano player. You're so drunk you can't hit nothing. In fact, you're probably seeing double.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Thomas Hayden Church as Billy Clanton. It's a great little moment, funny at the same time as it adds to the tension of the scene. Kilmer's delivery is flawless, but here's the detail about it I love. Doc's holding his first pistol in one hand and his cup in the other. When he pulls his second pistol, what happens to the cup? It goes right around his finger, so he can hold on to it and the gun at the same time. That's a man who takes his drinking and his gunfighting very seriously. The depth of Doc's feeling for Wyatt is obvious and forms the heart of the film. Wyatt's bond of friendship with Doc feels truer and more real than his relationships with his brothers, Virgil and Morgan, though, again, some of that is down to the inherent silliness of the film, undermining how much I'm able to buy in to those relationships. When Morgan Earp dies after being shot, and Wyatt staggers out into the rainy night, covered up to his elbows in Morgan's blood, and cries out, "Why? Why him?" over and over. I don't know. Makes it a little hard to take that relationship seriously. But Wyatt and Doc? All the laughs that result from their interactions are intentional and serve to reveal and reiterate the trust, easy rapport, and unshakable loyalty the two men share. They needle and jab and tease each other in the way that friends do, and there's never a doubt that one would die to protect the other. Doc's friendship with Wyatt provides Kilmer with his best opportunities to show off not just his comic timing, but a few moments of honest, unconcealed earnestness. Here's one from when the Earps are preparing to confront the cowboys at the OK Corral, and Wyatt tries to let Doc off the hook.
It's not your problem, Doc. You don't have to mix up in this.
That is a hell of a thing for you to say to me.
Wyatt's trying to keep his friend safe by offering an honorable way of avoiding the coming bloodshed, but Doc seems hurt and insulted that the prospect of Doc not fighting at his side even entered Wyatt's head. Doc's devotion to Wyatt is so absolute that other characters in the film are sometimes puzzled by it, especially as Doc's health begins to noticeably deteriorate in the latter portion of the film. When Doc joins Wyatt's vengeance ride against the cowboys in the film's final act, one of his fellow members of the posse can't help but question what the hell a man as obviously sick as Doc is doing there.
Doc, sorry to be in bed. What the hell are you doing this for anyway?
Wyatt Earp is my friend.
Hell, I got lots of friends.
I don't.
Doc's loyalty to Wyatt is rivaled in the film only by Wyatt's loyalty to him. The two men are so close that in their final scene together, Doc tells Wyatt to stop visiting him at his deathbed. It's not that Doc doesn't appreciate it, clearly he does, but Doc, more than any other character in the film, knows that life is precious and fleeting.
What would you want?
Just to live a normal life.
There's no normal life, Wyatt. It's just life. You get on with it.
Tombstone is not about Doc Holliday, but contained within Doc Holliday's character is everything about the movie that makes it work. The movie is florid and fanciful and indulgent, But underneath all of that, the movie is also aware of its own excesses, sincere, and serious about the violence, pain, and regret that occupy its center. Kilmer, more so than anyone else on screen, seems to have understood that. He plays Doc Holliday that way, as a man of humor and sadness, a ridiculous man and a man who earns the respect of his allies and enemies alike, a weak, sickly, dying man, and the man who, out of everyone in this movie full of lawmen and tough guys and killers, is the one you would least want to piss off. Val Kilmer was, and on film will forever be, a performer of similarly captivating contradictions, as precise and measured as he was instinctive and unpredictable. A magnetic and commanding screen presence who could effortlessly disappear into a role. An actor who would embody violence and brutality just as easily as he could sensitivity and sophistication, who could make us laugh and draw out our empathy, seemingly at will. Those qualities are on display throughout Kilmer's career, which, in the saddest contradiction of all, now seems both long and far too short. But you can see all of them in Doc Holliday. The best character Kilmer ever got to play, the greatest performance he ever gave, the one that makes me miss him the most, and the one that makes me the most grateful that he was able to share his gifts with us for as long as he was. Just like his Doc Holliday, you could always depend on Val Kilmer. Wasn't he a daisy?
Don't any of you have the guts to play for blood?
I'm your Huckleberry. That's just my game.